Hospital. He just fell down the stairs. My wife sobbed over my son's hospital bed. I looked at his unconscious form, then at the floor near the bed. A small, glinting object. I picked it up. My breath caught. I called security, then the police. The detective examined it, then my son. This was no accident. My wife began to tremble when. This is a custom-made tie pin, Detective Josephine Alvarez said, examining the small copper object in the evidence bag. The tiny pin was fashioned into an intricate compass rose, with a single ruby in its center. Very distinctive. Any idea where it came from, Mr. Crawford? I stared at the detective, then at my wife, Barbara. Her face had gone pale beneath her makeup. Our 8-year-old son, Wyatt, lay unconscious in the hospital bed, tubes snaking from his small body to the array of monitoring equipment. The doctors had induced a coma to reduce brain swelling after his fall. No, I said firmly, my eyes never leaving Barbara's face. That doesn't belong to me or anyone I know. Barbara clutched her purse tighter. Ryland, please, this isn't the time. The detective doesn't need to be here. It was an accident. I turned to Detective Alvarez. I found it right there, by his bed. It wasn't there earlier. Barbara's breathing quickened. Someone must have dropped it. A doctor, a nurse. Mrs. Crawford, Detective Alvarez interrupted. Hospital personnel don't wear decorative tie pins during their shifts. It's against protocol. She turned to me. You're certain it's not yours? I've never seen it before in my life. I replied, my voice steady despite the storm brewing within me. Barbara's phone chimed. She glanced at it, then quickly silenced it, shoving it deep into her purse. Detective Alvarez noticed. Mrs. Crawford, I'll need statements from both of you about what happened. You said Wyatt fell down the stairs. Were you home when this occurred? Barbara nodded, wiping tears that seemed to appear on command. Yes, I was in the kitchen. I heard a thump and rushed out to find him at the bottom of the stairs. I called 911 immediately. I watched my wife, noting the slight tremor in her left hand, the tell she'd had since I'd met her 15 years ago. Barbara only trembled when she was lying. I wasn't home, I said. I was at my workshop finishing a commission. Barbara called me hysterical. I was a custom furniture maker with a reputation for obsessive precision and attention to detail. My designs were sought after by collectors and museums alike. I could spot a misalignment of 1/16 of an inch from across a room. It was what made me excellent at my craft, and even better at reading people. Detective Alvarez made notes in her small book. I'll need to speak with Wyatt's doctor. I'm right here, said a voice from the doorway. Dr. Montgomery walked in, her face betraying concern beyond professional duty. Mr. and Mrs. Crawford, we've completed the additional scans. There's something you need to see. She slid an iPad from under her arm and pulled up an image. This is the CT scan we took when Wyatt was admitted. She pointed to a bright area. This is the acute subdural hematoma from today's injury. She swiped to another image. And this is concerning. It shows evidence of a previous head injury, approximately 2 to 3 weeks old. My heart froze. I turned to Barbara, whose face had gone slack. Previous injury? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Wyatt never had a head injury. Dr. Montgomery looked between us. It wasn't severe enough to cause symptoms you would have noticed, but it's definitely there. Detective Alvarez stepped forward. Dr. Montgomery, would you say these injuries are consistent with falls? The doctor hesitated. The acute injury could be. The older one is in an unusual location for a typical fall. I felt something crack inside me, a foundation I'd believed solid suddenly revealing its fault lines. I want security cameras checked, I said. I want to know who's been in and out of this room. Already requested, Detective Alvarez said. Mr. Crawford, would you step outside with me? In the hallway, she spoke quietly. I need to ask, how are things at home? I understood immediately what she was implying. If you're asking whether I hurt my son, the answer is absolutely not. He's everything to me. I ran my hands through my hair. Barbara and I, things haven't been great lately. She's been distant, working late at her gallery. But never would I imagine. I'm not accusing anyone, Detective Alvarez said. But that tie pin concerns me. Do you recognize the design? I shook my head. It's the emblem of the Cartographers, an exclusive men's club downtown. Very old money, very private. Not the kind of thing someone just drops accidentally. I stared through the window at Barbara, who was now on her phone, her back to Wyatt's bed. For the first time in our marriage, I wondered who my wife really was. Chapter 2. Shadows and Whispers. The next morning, I returned to the hospital after a sleepless night at home. Barbara had stayed overnight in Wyatt's room, insisting I go home to rest. I knew better. She wanted privacy for her phone calls. Nurse Pauline Williams was checking Wyatt's vitals when I arrived. She gave me a strange look, a mixture of pity and suspicion that made my skin crawl. "How is he?" I asked. "No change," she said curtly. "Your wife stepped out to get coffee." I nodded, taking a seat beside my son. I gently took his small hand in mine, careful of the foreline. "Hey, buddy. Dad's here." Nurse Williams lingered by the door. "Mr. Crawford, I need to ask you something." I looked up, noticing her discomfort. "What is it?" "Your wife mentioned that Wyatt has been accident-prone lately. She suggested that perhaps—" She faltered. My jaw tightened. "She suggested what exactly?" "That you might have been frustrated with him. That you work with your hands and sometimes don't know your own strength." I spread through my veins. Is my wife suggesting I hurt my son? Nurse Williams stepped back at the controlled fury in my voice. She didn't say it directly, but "I have never and would never harm my son," I said, rising to my full height. "I'd like to speak to the hospital administrator and see the visitor logs for this room." Barbara appeared in the doorway, coffee cup in hand. "Ryland, what's going on?" I stared at her, seeing a stranger in my wife's clothes. "Just clearing up some misconceptions about our home life," I said evenly. The nurse seemed to be under the impression that I might be responsible for Wyatt's injuries. Barbara flushed. "I never said that. I just mentioned you've been under stress with your deadlines." "Don't," I warned quietly. "Just don't." Later that afternoon, Dr. Montgomery called us both to her office. Barbara sat rigidly beside me as the doctor explained Wyatt's condition. "The good news is the swelling is going down. We'll begin bringing him out of the induced coma tomorrow," she said. "But I'm required by law to report suspected child abuse to authorities." "There is no abuse in our home," I stated firmly. Dr. Montgomery nodded. "Detective Alvarez will be investigating. In the meantime, I've approved your request to review the visitor logs." As we left her office, Barbara grabbed my arm. "Why are you doing this? Making them suspicious?" "Wyatt fell down the stairs. It was an accident." I removed her hand from my arm. "Was it? Like the accident he apparently had 2 weeks ago that neither of us knew about?" Her eyes darted away. "Kids bump their heads all the time." "Not my kid," I said. "Not without telling me." I walked away, heading to the hospital security office. The supervisor, a man named Cortez, pulled up the visitor logs. "Your son's had consistent visitors," he said. "You, your wife, medical staff, and—" He frowned. "There's one visitor who came late last night. Signed in as Miles Powell, said he was the boy's uncle." "I don't have a brother," I said. "And neither does my wife." Cortez showed me the grainy security footage. A tall man in an expensive coat, his face carefully angled away from the cameras, entering Wyatt's room at 11:43 p.m. Barbara was visible in the footage, not surprised by his arrival, but standing to embrace him. "Can you get a better angle on his face?" I asked. "Not from these cameras," Cortez said. But he signed the visitor log. The signature was a scrawl, deliberately illegible. But I knew it wasn't the first time Miles Powell had been in my home. 2 weeks ago, Barbara had hosted a small gathering for potential buyers at her gallery. I'd been late, caught up finishing a commissioned piece. When I arrived, she'd introduced me to several people, including an art dealer named Miles Powell. I remembered him clearly now, tall, meticulously dressed, with a copper tie pin shaped like a compass rose. Chapter 3. Fractured Reflections. That evening, while Barbara was getting dinner in the hospital cafeteria, I searched her coat, which hung in Wyatt's room. In the pocket, I found a receipt from the Lakeview Hotel dated 3 days earlier. Room service for 2, champagne and strawberries. Our anniversary had been last month. We hadn't celebrated. I photographed the receipt with my phone and returned it to her pocket. Then I went through her purse, something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. Inside, tucked in a zippered compartment, was a hotel key card. My hands steady, I continued my search, finding nothing else of note. I sat back in the hospital chair, closing my eyes to think. The pieces were beginning to form a pattern, but I needed to be absolutely certain before I acted. Barbara returned with a sandwich for me. I accepted it with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. "How was Miles Powell?" I asked casually. She froze for a millisecond before recovering. Who? The art dealer you introduced me to at your gallery showing. Tall guy, expensive taste. She relaxed slightly. Oh, him. What about him? Just wondering if he's been helpful with the gallery. You mentioned he had important connections. Barbara nodded, too quickly. Yes, he's been wonderful. Brought in several serious collectors. I bit into the sandwich. Good to hear. Maybe we should have him over for dinner sometime. When Wyatt's better. Her face paled. Maybe. We'll see. The next morning, Dr. Montgomery began the process of bringing Wyatt out of his coma. Detective Alvarez arrived as Barbara and I waited anxiously by our son's bedside. Mr. Crawford, may I speak with you privately? She asked. In the hallway, she showed me a plastic evidence bag containing the tie pin. We've confirmed this belongs to a member of the cartographers. We're working on identifying which member. Miles Powell, I said. Detective Alvarez raised an eyebrow. How do you know that name? I explained about the security footage and Barbara's reaction to my mentioning him. He's an art dealer who works with my wife's gallery. I'll look into him, she promised. There's something else. The doctors found something concerning in Wyatt's latest scans. My heart dropped. What is it? The older injury. It has characteristics consistent with an impact rather than a fall. I leaned against the wall, feeling my world tilt. You're saying someone hit my son. I'm saying we need to investigate all possibilities. When I returned to Wyatt's room, Barbara was sitting close to his bed, her hand on his. Her phone buzzed on the side table. I glanced at it, a text notification from MP displayed on the screen. Call me. Urgent. Barbara saw me looking and quickly grabbed the phone. Miles Powell. I asked quietly. Her head snapped up. What? MP Miles Powell. The man who visited Wyatt last night, claiming to be his uncle. Barbara's face drained of color. You're having me followed? No. Hospital security keeps visitor logs. Why was he here, Barbara? She stood, hands shaking. He was concerned. He's a friend. A friend who takes you to the Lakeview Hotel? A friend who wears a compass rose tie pin that somehow ended up on the floor of our son's hospital room. Her eyes widened. You went through my things. Our son is in a coma, Barbara. A coma caused by a fall that might not have been a fall at all. So yes, I went through your things, and I'll do a hell of a lot more to find out what happened to him. A small sound from the bed interrupted us. Wyatt's eyelids were fluttering. He's waking up, Barbara gasped, reaching for the call button. Dr. Montgomery and a nurse rushed in. As they examined Wyatt, his eyes opened, confused and frightened. Mom? Dad? His voice was hoarse. I moved to his side, relief flooding through me. We're here, buddy. You're okay. Wyatt's eyes focused on me, then moved to Barbara. Suddenly, his heart monitor began beeping rapidly. He shrank back against the pillows, his gaze fixed on his mother. He's having an anxiety response, Dr. Montgomery said. Wyatt, you're safe. You're in the hospital. But Wyatt kept staring at Barbara, his small body trembling. Don't let him come back, he whispered. The bad man. Don't let him hurt me again. Barbara stepped back as if struck. I met Detective Alvarez's eyes across the room. She gave me an almost imperceptible nod. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that my wife and her lover had tried to harm my son. And I knew with equal certainty that I would make them pay. Chapter 4. The Artisan's Eye. 2 days after Wyatt woke up, the doctors declared him stable enough to give a statement. Detective Alvarez arranged for a child psychologist to be present. I insisted on being there. Barbara was asked to wait outside, much to her visible distress. The psychologist, Dr. Faye Winters, spoke gently to Wyatt. Can you tell us what you remember about getting hurt? Wyatt clutched my hand. I was in my room playing. I heard Mom talking to someone. The bad man. Do you know who the bad man is? Dr. Winters asked. Wyatt nodded hesitantly. Mom's friend. He comes to the house when Dad's working. My jaw clenched, but I kept my expression neutral for Wyatt's sake. Did you see what happened before you got hurt? Detective Alvarez asked. Wyatt's eyes filled with tears. I went downstairs to get a juice box. They were in the living room. Mom was crying. The bad man saw me and got mad. He said I shouldn't be there. I ran upstairs, but he followed me. His voice dropped to a whisper. He pushed me. I remember falling. Dr. Winters handed Wyatt a tissue. You're very brave for telling us. What about the first time you got hurt? Detective Alvarez asked. A couple of weeks ago? Wyatt looked confused. I don't remember. Dr. Winters nodded. That's okay. You've told us a lot already. After the interview, Detective Alvarez pulled me aside. We'll need to question your wife. With Wyatt's statement and the physical evidence, we have grounds to investigate Mr. Powell. What about Wyatt? I asked. I don't want him going home if Barbara is there. We can arrange for emergency custody while the investigation proceeds, she assured me. But I need you to let us handle this legally, Mr. Crawford. No matter how angry you are. I nodded, making a promise I had no intention of keeping. I would let the law take its course, but I would also ensure justice in my own way. That night, I returned to our empty house. With Barbara staying at her sister's under police supervision and Wyatt still in the hospital, the silence was deafening. I went to my workshop in the converted garage, the one place that had always been exclusively mine. I sat at my workbench, running my fingers over the tools I'd collected over decades. Each had its purpose, its unique way of shaping raw materials into something precise and beautiful. I'd always believed in working with the grain of wood, not against it. Understanding its natural properties was key to creating something that would last. Now I needed to apply that same careful analysis to dismantling the lives of the people who had hurt my son. I opened my laptop and began researching Miles Powell. On the surface, he appeared legitimate, a successful art dealer with galleries in 3 cities. His website showed him at exclusive events, always impeccably dressed, always with a different beautiful woman on his arm. Digging deeper, I found patterns. He specialized in discovering new artists, typically women running small galleries. He would invest in their businesses, become their primary dealer, and eventually gain control of their finances. Several of these women had gone through bitter divorces during their association with Powell. Barbara's gallery had been struggling for years. 6 months ago, she'd suddenly found funding to expand. She'd attributed it to a new investor she'd met at an art fair, Miles Powell. I pulled out a notebook and began sketching designs for hidden recording devices, small, unobtrusive things I could build myself and place throughout the house. My skills as a craftsman would serve me well. I could create concealments no one would notice. Over the next week, while visiting Wyatt at the hospital during the day, I spent my nights building my surveillance system. I installed tiny cameras and custom-made light fixtures, microphones and decorative wooden wall panels, and tracking devices in Barbara's car disguised as part of the upholstery repair I'd, thoughtfully, had done while she was dealing with Wyatt's hospitalization. I also converted part of my workshop into a monitoring station, hidden behind a false wall that appeared to be storage for wood slabs. Here, I could review everything my devices captured. Wyatt was released from the hospital after 10 days, into my temporary custody. Barbara was allowed supervised visits 3 times a week. She played the role of concerned mother perfectly during these visits, but Wyatt remained wary of her, staying close to my side. "When can Mom come home?" he asked one night as I tucked him in. I brushed his hair back from his forehead, careful of the healing wound. "Not for a while, buddy. There are some grown-up things we need to figure out first." "Is it because of the bad man?" "Partly," I said. "Can you tell me more about him? What did he and Mom talk about?" Wyatt's face scrunched in concentration. "Money. And you. He said you were in the way." My blood ran cold, but I kept my expression calm. "Did Mom agree with him?" "Sometimes. But when he talked about me going away to boarding school, she got mad." His eyes filled with tears. "She said I was hers, not yours. That you weren't even my real dad." I froze, the world narrowing to a pinpoint. "Wyatt, you know that's not true. I've been your dad since the day you were born." "I know," he said, clutching my hand. "You're my real dad, no matter what." That night, after Wyatt was asleep, I pulled out our family documents, birth certificates, medical records, everything. Wyatt's birth certificate listed me as his father, but a cold suspicion had taken root. I ordered a home DNA test that same night. The next day, Barbara arrived for her supervised visit with a gift for Wyatt, a set of art supplies. She'd always encouraged his creativity. I watched from the doorway as she helped him set up an easel in the sunroom. "Draw whatever you want, sweetheart," she said. Wyatt hesitated, then began drawing with determined strokes. Barbara smiled encouragingly until she saw what was taking shape on the paper. A stick figure at the top of a staircase, pushing a smaller figure down. "Wyatt, why are you drawing that?" she asked, her voice tight. "Dr. Winters said I should draw what I remember," he replied, "to help get the bad memories out of my head." Barbara looked up and saw me watching. Her face hardened. "Ryland, can I speak with you privately?" In the kitchen, she kept her voice low. "What have you been telling him about me?" "Nothing but the truth," I replied. which is more than I can say for you. This has gone far enough, she hissed. Powell made a mistake. He was angry, yes, but he never meant to hurt Wyatt badly. It was an accident, just not the accident I initially described. I stared at her, incredulous. An accident? He pushed our 8-year-old son down a flight of stairs. He's sorry, she insisted. We both are. We can work through this, for Wyatt's sake. Is Wyatt even my son? I asked bluntly. She recoiled. What? He told me what you said, that I wasn't his real father. Barbara's face flushed. I was angry. People say things they don't mean when they're angry. Answer the question, Barbara. Is Wyatt biologically mine? Her silence was answer enough. Who? I demanded. It doesn't matter, she said. You raised him. You love him. Nothing has to change. I laughed bitterly. Everything has already changed. Your boyfriend tried to kill my son, because that's what he is, regardless of biology. And you're standing here defending him. I'm not defending what he did, she protested. But if you just agree to a divorce and a reasonable settlement. So that's what this is about. Money. Powell has plans for us. For the gallery. I need capital that you've always been too cautious to risk. Get out, I said quietly. Your supervised visit is over. After she left, I called Detective Alvarez. I need to know everything you have on Miles Powell, I said. And I mean everything. Chapter 5, Broken Pieces. The DNA test results came back a week later. I wasn't Wyatt's biological father. The knowledge should have devastated me, but instead, it crystallized my resolve. Blood didn't make a family. Love and loyalty did. Wyatt was my son in every way that mattered. I didn't tell him. There was no need to burden an 8-year-old with such information, especially one still recovering from trauma. Instead, I focused on making him feel safe and planning my next moves. Detective Alvarez had shared some troubling information about Miles Powell. He had been investigated twice before in connection with suspicious accidents, both involving children of women he was involved with. In both cases, the mothers had recanted their initial suspicions and charges were never filed. He's careful, Alvarez told me. Knows how to manipulate vulnerable women. We found evidence he's heavily in debt despite his flashy lifestyle. Your wife's gallery represents a significant investment for him. He tried to kill my son, I said, because Wyatt was in the way of their plans. We're building a case based on Wyatt's testimony and the physical evidence, she assured me. But Powell has an expensive legal team already working to discredit your son's account as the confused memories of a child with a head injury. That evening, I received a text from an unknown number. We should talk. For Barbara's sake. The Cartographers Club, 8 p.m. tomorrow. I knew immediately it was from Powell. The invitation was a risk for him, but his arrogance would be his downfall. The Cartographers Club was exactly what I expected. Old money pretending to be new, with darkwood paneling and leather chairs occupied by men who believed they were entitled to whatever they desired. Powell was waiting at a corner table, a tumbler of amber liquid before him. Mr. Crawford, he said smoothly, rising to shake my hand. Thank you for coming. I shook his hand firmly, noting the compass rose tie pin on his immaculate suit. Mr. Powell, please call me Miles. He gestured to the chair opposite him. Scotch. I'll pass, I said, taking the seat. What did you want to discuss? Powell leaned back, studying me. I think we both want what's best for Barbara and Wyatt. My jaw tightened at my son's name in his mouth. Do we? This unfortunate situation has gotten out of hand, he said. A misunderstanding blown out of proportion. A misunderstanding? I repeated. My son was in a coma. Powell had the decency to look uncomfortable. I lost my temper. The boy surprised me during a delicate conversation with Barbara. I didn't mean to hurt him seriously. Just hurt him a little? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. He sighed. Look, I'm trying to be reasonable here. Barbara and I care for each other. She wants a divorce. You can make this difficult, or you can be practical. Practical, I echoed. What does practical look like to you? Powell leaned forward. You signed the divorce papers Barbara's lawyer has drawn up. You agree to joint custody of Wyatt. You don't press charges regarding the incident. In return, the financial settlement will be more than fair. And if I don't agree? His expression hardened. Then things get unpleasant. For everyone. I smiled, a cold expression that didn't reach my eyes. You misunderstand me, Miles. I'm not negotiating. I'm gathering information. He frowned. What do you mean? I stood. You'll find out. Oh, and Miles, That tie pin you're so proud of? It's not level. I left him staring after me, his hand unconsciously moving to straighten his pin. Outside, I took a deep breath of night air. The conversation had confirmed what I already suspected. Powell saw Wyatt as an inconvenience. But I'd learned something valuable. Powell was afraid. Beneath his smooth exterior, he feared exposure, feared losing Barbara and the financial lifeline she represented. Fear was something I could use. The next day, I attended the opening of a new exhibition at Barbara's gallery. She was surprised to see me there, especially without Wyatt. "What are you doing here?" she asked tensely. "Supporting my wife's career," I replied. "Isn't that what a good husband does?" Her eyes narrowed. "Ryland, don't make a scene." "I wouldn't dream of it." I moved through the gallery, examining the artwork, mediocre pieces with inflated prices. I recognized Powell's influence in the selections. Flashy, trendy works designed to appeal to people who bought art as status symbols rather than out of appreciation. Powell arrived an hour into the event. He faltered when he saw me, but quickly recovered, approaching with a glass of champagne. "Mr. Crawford, I didn't expect to see you here." "I'm full of surprises," I said pleasantly. "Like how I've started recording all my conversations." "Fascinating habit." His smile froze. "Is that so?" "Absolutely. You never know when something useful might be captured." I gestured to his tie pin. "That's a lovely piece." "Custom made." Powell's hand went to the pin. "Yes, one of a kind." "Not quite," I said. "I have one just like it. Found it in my son's hospital room." The blood drained from his face. "If you'll excuse me, I need to speak with a client." He hurried away, immediately seeking out Barbara. They spoke in hushed tones, glancing in my direction. I pretended not to notice, chatting amiably with other guests. As I was leaving, Barbara caught up with me in the parking lot. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "First you show up here, then you threaten Miles?" "I didn't threaten anyone," I said calmly. "Just had a friendly conversation about unique tie pins and recording devices." "Stop playing games," she snapped. "Tell me what you want." I looked at her. "This woman I'd loved for 15 years, the mother of my son. I want you to remember who you used to be, Barbara. Before him. Before you were willing to sacrifice our son for money and whatever else Powell promised you." Her expression wavered. "It's not that simple. Miles and I." "Miles pushed our 8-year-old son down a flight of stairs," I interrupted. "And you covered for him. It is that simple." I got into my car and drove away, leaving her standing alone in the darkened lot. In my rearview mirror, I saw Powell emerge from the shadows to join her. Right on cue. Back at home, I checked on Wyatt, who was sleeping peacefully under the watchful eye of Maria Lopez, the retired pediatric nurse I'd hired to help care for him. Then I went to my workshop and reviewed the recording devices I'd planted on myself before the gallery visit. Powell's voice came through clearly. "We need to move up our timeline. Crawford knows too much." "Barbara, what are you suggesting?" "Powell, get Wyatt's custody hearing expedited. Once you have him, we sell the house, liquidate Crawford's assets, and move forward with our plans." "Barbara, what about the investigation?" "The detective is building a case." "Powell, leave that to me. I have connections who can make evidence disappear." I sat back, a cold satisfaction settling over me. Everyone thought I was a simple craftsman, a man who worked with his hands and lacked the cunning to outmaneuver people like Powell. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I picked up my phone and called Detective Alvarez. "I have something you need to hear." Chapter 6, The Craftsman's Design. The next morning, Detective Alvarez came to my workshop. I played her the recordings from the gallery. "This is good," she said, "but technically inadmissible since Powell didn't consent to being recorded." "I'm not looking for admissibility," I said. "I'm looking for information." She studied me. "Mr. Crawford, I understand your frustration with the legal process, but I know. Don't take matters into my own hands." I gave her a reassuring smile. "I'm just gathering information to protect my son." After she left, I returned to my workbench, sketching designs for a new piece. Not furniture, but the framework of my revenge. Like any master craftsman, I knew that rushing led to mistakes. Precision required patience. Over the next week, I continued my surveillance of Barbara and Powell. My cameras and microphones captured their growing desperation as Detective Alvarez's investigation progressed. Powell's lawyer was working to discredit Wyatt's testimony, while Barbara was pushing for an emergency custody hearing. "We need to think bigger," Powell told Barbara during a late-night call. Crawford won't back down. He's too stubborn. What are you suggesting? Barbara asked. There was a fire at one of my competitors' galleries last month. Insurance paid out beautifully. Perhaps your gallery needs a similar stroke of bad luck. Insurance fraud? Miles, it's business, he interrupted. And with Crawford's workshop so close to your gallery, who's to say where the fire started? I smiled grimly as I listened. Powell was getting careless, proposing felonies over a phone line that could easily be tapped. His fear was making him reckless. The next day, I invited Frank Whitmore, an old friend and retired insurance investigator, to lunch. Without revealing my full intentions, I described a hypothetical arson scenario similar to what Powell had suggested. Classic insurance fraud setup, Frank said, shaking his head. But these days, fire investigators can determine the point of origin down to the inch. Accelerants leave distinct chemical signatures. Whoever tried it would almost certainly be caught. Interesting, I said. What if someone was trying to frame someone else for the arson? Frank raised an eyebrow. That would be remarkably difficult unless they had access to the supposed arsonist's unique personal items to plant at the scene. Even then, alibi and motive would come into play. He studied me. This is for a novel you're writing, right? I smiled. Something like that. That evening, I received a call from Dr. Winters, Wyatt's psychologist. Mr. Crawford, Wyatt had a breakthrough in our session today. He remembered more details about the first incident, the head injury from 2 weeks before the fall. My grip tightened on the phone. What did he remember? He says Mr. Powell was angry about drawings Wyatt had made. Drawings of Mr. Powell and your wife together in your house. Mr. Powell took the drawings and hit Wyatt's head against the wall, telling him he needed to learn to keep secrets. My vision blurred with rage. Did he tell anyone about this? He tried to tell your wife, but she told him he must have dreamed it, that Mr. Powell would never hurt him. After hanging up, I went to check on Wyatt, who was building an elaborate Lego structure in his room. I sat on the floor beside him, helping him find the pieces he needed. That's an amazing castle, I said. He beamed. It's not a castle, Dad. It's your workshop, but bigger, so we can both work there. My throat tightened. I'd like that. He hesitated, then asked, Dad, am I still going to have to see Mom? The judge says you need to, buddy, but I'll be right there with you. He nodded solemnly. I told Dr. Winters about the bad man hitting my head against the wall. She said it wasn't my fault. It absolutely wasn't, I assured him. None of this is your fault. Mom said I dreamed it. His small hands trembled slightly. But I didn't dream it. I believe you, I said firmly. And Detective Alvarez believes you too. That night, after Wyatt was asleep, I finalized my plan. It had 3 phases, like any good project: preparation, execution, and finishing. I would use Powell's fear, Barbara's greed, and my own skills to construct a trap they couldn't escape. First, I called Powell from a burner phone, disguising my voice. I have information about Ryland Crawford you might be interested in. Meet me at the abandoned Wilson Furniture Factory tomorrow night at 10. Come alone. Next, I texted Barbara from my regular phone. We need to talk about Wyatt. No lawyers, no Powell. Just us. The workshop, tomorrow night at 9. Finally, I contacted Detective Alvarez. I have reason to believe Powell is planning something dangerous. I need your help. The next day, I prepared my workshop, setting up hidden cameras and microphones to document everything. I placed specific tools in calculated positions, a craftsman's mise en place. By evening, everything was ready. Barbara arrived promptly at 9, looking nervous. Ryland, where are you? In the back, I called. The workshop was dimly lit, with only my design desk illuminated. She approached cautiously. What is this about? I gestured to the chair across from me. Sit. I want to show you something. On my desk lay a thick folder. I opened it, revealing photographs, transcripts, and financial records. This is everything I know about Miles Powell. The fraud he's committed. The women he's manipulated. The children he's hurt. Barbara's eyes widened as she flipped through the documents. Where did you get this? I'm a craftsman, I said simply. I pay attention to details. Why are you showing me this? Because despite everything, you're still Wyatt's mother. I wanted to give you one last chance to make the right choice. Her hands shook as she closed the folder. It's not that simple. Miles and I are planning to commit arson for insurance fraud. I finished. Yes, I know. The color drained from her face. How? I gestured around the workshop. You'd be surprised what a skilled woodworker can hide in plain sight. A noise from outside caught our attention. Car tires on gravel. Right on time, I said. That'll be Powell, responding to an anonymous tip about evidence against him. You set him up, Barbara whispered. No, I corrected. I set both of you up. The question is, which side will you be on when this is over? The workshop door opened, and Powell stepped in, his face contorting with surprise when he saw Barbara. What is this? He demanded. I smiled. The final fitting. Chapter 7. The first cuts. Miles Powell stood in the doorway of my workshop, his expensive coat incongruous against the sawdust and tools. He glared at Barbara, then at me. What kind of game are you playing, Crawford? He asked, his voice tight with anger. I leaned back in my chair. No game. Just a conversation about truth and consequences. I received a call claiming you had evidence against me, Powell said, stepping further into the workshop. I see you've been filling Barbara's head with lies. Not lies, Barbara said quietly, her fingers resting on the folder I'd shown her. Records. Bank statements. Police reports from Seattle and Chicago. Powell's expression flickered. Whatever he's shown you is fabricated. I smiled. Is it? Lisa Donovan in Seattle? Emma Travers in Chicago. Both ran small galleries. Both became involved with you. Both had children who suffered accidents. Both businesses mysteriously burned down for insurance money after they tried to leave you. Circumstantial coincidences, Powell dismissed, but his eyes darted to the exits. The difference is, I continued, those women were too afraid to press charges. Too afraid to testify against you. I'm not afraid, Miles. And neither is my son. Powell's hand slipped into his coat pocket. You have nothing but a child's confused testimony and your own jealous delusions. I have recordings, I said, of you discussing arson, discussing how to handle Wyatt, discussing your plans to liquidate my assets. Barbara stood suddenly. Miles, is it true? The other women, the other children. Sit down, Powell snapped. Don't let him manipulate you. The only person being manipulated here is you, Barbara, I said. Powell is in debt up to his eyeballs. His galleries are failing. He needs your gallery, and my assets, to stay afloat. That's absurd, Powell scoffed. Barbara, we've discussed our future. Our plans for expansion. Plans funded by insurance fraud and theft, I pointed out. Tell me, did you plan to harm Barbara too, once you had control of everything? Like the others? Powell pulled his hand from his pocket, and I saw what I'd expected, a small pistol. Enough, he said. You've become a problem I can no longer afford, Crawford. Barbara gasped. Miles, what are you doing? Solving our problem, he said coldly. Both our problems, now that you've clearly begun to waver. I remained still, watching Powell's finger on the trigger. You won't get away with this. I will, he said. A tragic murder-suicide. The distraught husband, unable to accept his wife's decision to leave, kills her in his workshop, then himself. The police already know you're angry about the affair. They'll believe it. Barbara backed away. This isn't what I wanted. Not any of this. It's what needs to happen, Powell insisted, his mask of sophistication completely gone, replaced by desperate calculation. You can either be part of the future or part of the past, Barbara, like Wyatt was part of the past. I asked quietly, is that why you pushed an 8-year-old down the stairs? Because he was in the way of your future? Powell's eyes narrowed. The boy was a complication. He saw too much, remembered too much. Barbara's face crumpled. You told me it was an accident, that you never meant to hurt him. I meant to scare him, Powell admitted. But when he threatened to tell his father about us, about the things he'd seen and heard, adjustments had to be made. You tried to kill my son, I said, my voice deadly calm. Powell turned the gun toward me. And now I'll finish what I started with his father. The workshop door burst open. Police. Drop the weapon. Detective Alvarez stood in the doorway, her service weapon aimed at Powell. 2 uniformed officers flanked her. Powell's face contorted with rage. You set me up, he snarled at me. No, I corrected. You set yourself up the moment you harmed my son. As the officers handcuffed Powell, Detective Alvarez approached me. We got it all. The confession, the threats, everything. I nodded. Thank you for being in position. When you called saying Powell might be planning something dangerous, we took it seriously. She glanced at the cameras I'd installed. Though it seems you had your own backup plan. Barbara stood shell-shocked as Powell was led away. I didn't know, she whispered. About the other women, the other children. I swear I didn't know. But you knew he hurt Wyatt, I said. The first time. And you chose him anyway. She couldn't meet my eyes. I was afraid. Confused. He made me believe it was for the best, that you were holding me back, that Wyatt would adjust. Detective Alvarez stepped forward. Mrs. Crawford, we'll need your statement as well. As Barbara was let out to give her statement, I remained in my workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade. The first cut had been made. The shape of justice was emerging from the raw material of deception. Chapter 8, Assembly. The following weeks were a blur of legal proceedings. Powell was charged with attempted murder, assault of a minor, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and a host of other crimes. Evidence from his previous victims in Seattle and Chicago strengthened the case against him. Barbara was charged as an accessory after the fact for covering up Wyatt's first injury. Her cooperation with the prosecution and her willingness to testify against Powell resulted in a plea deal, probation, and community service rather than jail time. The divorce proceedings moved forward swiftly. Barbara didn't contest my full custody of Wyatt, asking only for supervised visitation rights. The DNA test results remained my secret. There was no need to introduce that complication into Wyatt's life. He was my son in all the ways that mattered. 6 months after Powell's arrest, I received a call from Barbara asking to meet. We arranged to talk at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown, while Wyatt was at school. Barbara looked thinner, her designer clothes replaced by simple jeans and a sweater. The gallery had been sold to cover legal fees. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," she said as I sat across from her. "What do you want, Barbara?" She folded her hands on the table. "I've been in therapy, trying to understand how I let things go so far. How I could have." Her voice broke. "How I could have failed Wyatt so badly." I remained silent, waiting. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," she continued. "I don't deserve it. But I wanted you to know I'm doing the work to be better. To be someone Wyatt might someday be able to trust again." "Why tell me this?" "Because you were right. About everything. About Powell. About what I'd become." She took a shaky breath. "And because I've been offered a job in California. A fresh start. I wanted to talk to you about adjusting the visitation schedule." I studied her. "You're moving away from your son?" "It's better for him," she said, surprising me with her self-awareness. "Every time he sees me, he remembers the trauma. The psychologist says he needs stability now, not conflicted emotions about his mother." "So you're giving up?" She shook her head. "I'm giving him space. I'll write to him, send gifts on his birthday and holidays. When he's older, if he wants a relationship with me, I'll be there. But for now," she wiped away a tear. "For now, the best thing I can do for my son is to step back." I hadn't expected this. In all my calculations, I'd never considered that Barbara might voluntarily remove herself from the equation. "There's something else," she said, pulling an envelope from her purse. "The proceeds from selling the gallery. It's all here, after legal fees. It should have been yours anyway. Your support is what started the gallery in the first place." I made no move to take the envelope. "Keep it. Use it to build your new life." "I can't," she insisted. "Not after everything. It should go to Wyatt's future. College fund, maybe." "Is this an attempt at redemption, Barbara?" She gave a sad smile. "No, there's no redemption for what I did. This is restitution. The only kind I can offer." As our meeting concluded, Barbara hesitated. "There's one more thing you should know. About Powell." "What's that?" "He has connections in prison. Dangerous people. His lawyer told me he's been making threats about you and Wyatt." I nodded, unsurprised. "Let him threaten. We're beyond his reach now." But as I drove home, I considered Powell's vindictive nature. He was facing a minimum of 20 years in prison. A man like that, with his resources and connections, could be dangerous even from behind bars. The final piece of my plan would need to be implemented sooner than I'd anticipated. The next day, I visited Powell's lawyer, Lawrence Bennett, in his downtown office. Bennett was clearly surprised to see me. "Mr. Crawford, what can I do for you?" I sat across from him. "I understand your client has been making threats against my family from prison." Bennett cleared his throat. "I can neither confirm nor deny." "I'm not here about legal matters," I interrupted. "I'm here to deliver a message to Powell." "I'm not a messenger service," Bennett said stiffly. I placed a small wooden box on his desk. It was one of my creations, a puzzle box with intricate joinery that concealed its opening mechanism. "Give him this," I said. "Tell him it contains information about offshore accounts I discovered while investigating him. Accounts the prosecutors don't know about yet." Bennett stared at the box. "Why would you give him this?" Because I want him to understand what he's dealing with, I said. I found his hidden assets. I can find anything he tries to use against my family. Bennett made no move to touch the box. This is highly irregular. So is threatening a child from prison, I countered. Give him the box, Mr. Bennett. Let him see what a craftsman can do. As I left the office, I knew Bennett's curiosity would ensure Powell received my message. The puzzle box would take hours to open, even for someone who knew what they were doing. Inside was a single sheet of paper with account numbers and passwords, all legitimate, all linked to Powell's hidden assets, all discovered during my meticulous investigation. But the box itself was the real message. As Powell worked to solve it, microscopic particles of a carefully selected wood dust would be released, particles that would trigger his documented cedar allergy. Nothing lethal, nothing that would cause permanent harm. Just enough to remind him that I could reach him anywhere, that my expertise as a craftsman extended far beyond furniture. The next week, I received a call from Bennett. My client has instructed me to inform you that he's withdrawing all claims to appeals in his case. He's accepting the plea deal for the maximum sentence. Has he? I asked mildly. That's very sensible of him. He also wants you to know that he understands your message clearly. There will be no further communications regarding your family. I appreciate the update, Mr. Bennett. That evening, I burned all my research on Powell and Barbara. The final joints were being fitted. The piece was coming together exactly as designed. Chapter 9, No Forgiveness. 1 year later, Wyatt and I stood in the expanded workshop behind our new home. We'd moved to a different neighborhood, a fresh start for both of us. The workshop was now twice the size of my old one, with a special area set up for Wyatt to learn the craft. Like this, Dad? He asked, carefully sanding a small jewelry box he was making for his teacher. I examined his work. Perfect. Remember, always sand with the grain, he finished, grinning. You're a natural, I told him, ruffling his hair. At 10 years old, Wyatt had recovered remarkably well from his trauma. The nightmares had stopped months ago. His therapist attributed his resilience to the stability and security of our new life. I attributed it to his inherent strength, a quality that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with character. The doorbell rang, interrupting our workshop time. I'll get it, I said. Keep working on that box. We'll finish the hinges when I get back. I opened the front door to find Detective Alvarez, now Lieutenant Alvarez, standing on my porch. Lieutenant, I greeted her. This is unexpected. Sorry to drop by unannounced, she said. I was in the neighborhood and thought you might want to know. Miles Powell was found dead in his cell this morning. I kept my expression neutral. What happened? Apparent anaphylactic shock. He had a severe cedar allergy, according to his medical records. Somehow, cedar dust was found in his cell. The prison is investigating how it got there. That's unfortunate, I said. Alvarez studied me carefully. I thought you should hear it from me, given your history. I appreciate that. Would you like to come in for coffee? She shook her head. I can't stay. But there's something else you should know. We found a journal in Powell's cell. He kept detailed records of his crimes, including his relationships with women in Seattle and Chicago. Their children's accidents weren't accidents at all. I'm not surprised, I said quietly. The journal also mentioned Barbara. According to Powell, she knew more than she admitted. She knew about the women in Seattle and Chicago. She knew what he was capable of. I absorbed this information silently. I thought you deserved to know the truth, Alvarez said. For closure. After she left, I returned to the workshop where Wyatt was still sanding his box. Who was that, Dad? Just someone delivering news, I said. How's it coming along? Almost done with this part, he said proudly. That evening, after Wyatt was asleep, I sat in my study reviewing emails. There was one from Barbara, her monthly update on her life in California. She'd found work at a small community arts center, was continuing therapy, and had sent a birthday gift for Wyatt that would arrive next week. I closed the email without responding. There would never be a response. My phone rang. Frank Whitmore, my friend from the insurance industry. It's done, he said without preamble. The investigation concluded it was an accidental exposure. Case closed. Thank you for letting me know, I replied. You sure you don't want to tell me how cedar dust found its way into a maximum security prison cell? Frank asked. I'm sure, I said. Some things are better left as mysteries. After hanging up, I went to my safe and removed the last piece of evidence, a small vial of cedar dust I'd specially prepared in my workshop. The same workshop where I'd crafted the puzzle box that had kept Powell occupied for hours, exposing him to just enough cedar to sensitize his system. The final delivery, a book sent to Powell with pages treated with cedar oil, had been arranged through a complex network of intermediaries. Untraceable. Perfect. I flushed the remaining dust down the toilet, watching it swirl away. Powell had tried to take my son from me. Barbara had betrayed us both. There could be no forgiveness for such actions, only justice, meticulously crafted by a master artisan's hands. The next morning, I took Wyatt fishing at the lake near our new home. As he cast his line into the clear water, his face peaceful and content, I knew I had made the right choices. "Dad," he said thoughtfully, "do you think Mom will ever come back?" I considered my answer carefully. "I don't think so, buddy. But that doesn't mean she doesn't care about you in her own way." He nodded, accepting this. "I'm glad I have you." "I'm glad I have you too," I said, meaning it with every fiber of my being. Nothing will ever change that. As the sun rose higher over the lake, I thought about the nature of forgiveness. Some believed it was necessary for healing, for moving forward. Perhaps for some, that was true. But I knew differently. Some betrayals cut too deep. Some actions could never be forgiven. And I was at peace with that knowledge, that my capacity for love was matched only by my capacity for justice. Wyatt reeled in his line, excited by a tug. "I think I got one, Dad." I moved to help him, this child who was mine in all the ways that mattered. Together, we would build a new life, one piece at a time, each joint perfectly fitted, each surface polished to a high sheen. And if anyone ever threatened that life again, they would learn what I had taught Miles, Powell, and Barbara. A true craftsman never leaves his work unfinished. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.